I think the reaction has been lukewarm. I really do. Overall, probably for Mauer and Helton more so than Beltre, and I wonder if it's the reverse of a recency bias, John. That it is that we've seen these guys play their whole careers, and in many ways we've taken them for granted, and we haven't appreciated their greatness.
That's a fair read on if that emotion exists
Right,
for some
right.
observers. It certainly it does not for me. I voted for all three of them and did so enthusiastically. In the case of Mauer, while he did not necessarily catch as many games as Carlton Fisk did, that first decade of his career was so extraordinary, so historic. Three batting titles in 4 years. Craig Nordquist, our great researcher at MLB Network, looked this up and indicated that there were 7 batting titles since 1900 that were won by catchers. So 7 batting titles won by catchers since 1900. Joe Mauer has 3 of the 7. That is historic greatness by any measure. Mm-hmm. And then in the case of Todd Helton, certainly a lot of people want to talk about the home road splits, to which I say 2 things. Number one, of course, you hit better at Coors Field than you do at sea level. That's just a basic reality of the offensive dynamics of that ballpark. And yet, his OPS on the road is higher than that of many Hall of Famers, home and road, in terms of his success just on the road. So Todd Helton, as I was speaking recently with one of his peers who told me after Barry Bonds, he was the preeminent left-handed hitter in the National League during the era in which he played. And when I hear praise like that, it affirms that Todd Helton is a deserving Hall of Famer.
Isn't a big factor in this the fact that Mauer did not play his career in a big city. If he had been in New York, Chicago, LA, I think the awareness of him during his career would have been much greater.
That's a great point. That's a great point, Bob. I do believe that the fact that he played in a smaller market, and obviously the Twins did not win a championship during that era.
Right.
They got to the playoffs multiple times, but did not win a championship. I think you're right. He was, to many, a little underappreciated for how great of a career that he had. And Bob, to your point, it is the job of the writers who vote, and I'm really honored to have a vote. It is our job to correct for that. It is our job to look at the voting year by year, because sometimes still, even in this day and age, MVP awards aren't always illustrative of exactly how good a particular player is, because sometimes the writers, historically especially, make mistakes. There are cases in which players should have won MVPs that did not. Alan Trammell in '87 is one such example, in the opinion of this particular observer. Totally unbiased, of course, in that particular.
I was going to say.
Totally unbiased. But
how many times were you in the grandstand at Tiger Stadium?
There you go. You know that I knew that would get a reaction from John. But the point is, it's our job as the writers to correct for that. And if a player was underappreciated for a certain period of time, this is why we as writers look at it. We're supposed to be the check and balance against how sometimes larger market players tend to get a little bit more acclaim. And it also, I think it's interesting, John, that you mentioned Beltre earlier in his career. By the end, he was a no-doubter. 3,000 hits, one of the best two-way third basemen ever, the Gold Gloves, the Silver Sluggers, preeminent player at a unique position. And yet, he did not make an all-star team until he was in his early 30s. And his journey, he got to the big leagues in 1998 as a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He made his first all-star appearance in 2010 when he was on his third team with the Red Sox. He became a Hall of Famer in his 30s with continued success. And I think that is a very unique career arc indeed.